So like many others, you guys are probably wondering, why do you guys work so long? Why do you guys work on weekends? Why do you have to cancel holidays? Why are you getting taxis back at 2 a.m.? And I am gonna answer all these questions today. Good morning guys, how you all doing? It's your boy, the Life of Soul, aka the bodybuilding banker. I woke up quite tired this morning, but also quite happy because it's Friday. Friday means the weekend is near. And even if I have a bit of work to do, it means I've got the weekend at least to relax. As you can see by my eyes, I'm very, very tired. And it made me think to create a video on why do investment bankers work such long hours? What's the reason? Is it unnecessary? Is it FaceTime? And I get a lot of these questions. So I thought in today's video, I'm gonna explain to you guys why we work long hours and basically the structure of our day.
First thing in the morning, it's important to make sure you're on top of things. Normally I check the emails to see if anything has been sent late last night, anything from an international client. Essentially, it's really important for you to be ahead of schedule and be very, very proactive. This is the best way to succeed in investment banking as opposed to being reactive. So once I've done that, I go through market data and I update clients on anything that can potentially affect their business. This could be changing their competitors, any regulatory information, and essentially make sure they feel safe about whatever transaction they're doing. Then after I check if any of my seniors have sent them comments overnight, this could be quite sporadic. They tend to get quite busy, and so often is the case, you have to make sure you are reactive or to what they produced. That just means that whenever they send you any work, you have to make sure you send it back correctly and in an efficient manner. You may get some downtime, but it's really, really important to set your day in the morning as it allows you to have clarity on how long you're gonna work. Sometimes work can come later in the evening, but it's best to get a great start in the day.
Just catching up with you guys. Sorry earlier, I had to do some urgent work and attend to some client emails. It's actually really early on a Friday. It is 6:30 and I'm trying to get to the gym. I haven't been for ages. And for me personally, I need it in order to be more efficient. So a lot of investment banks have adopted this pens down on the Friday, and basically it's to promote a healthier work-life culture. I think there was an unfortunate incident a couple of years ago when analysts actually worked too much and passed away. So to avoid that, some investment banks actually have a pens down culture. So at least on Friday evenings, depending on your bank, around 7 or 8 p.m., they encourage you to stop working, and generally they try to have protected weekends. That's not always the case, but it's really, really healthy, and it just makes it a lot more sustainable because what they're noticing is there's a lot of attrition in investment banking. That means people are leaving, and to avoid that, they just need to make our lives a lot more sustainable. Here we go. Crave Weights and Fitness, baby. The best gym. I imagine a lot of you guys are wondering, how do I fit that in? Well, it comes with experience. I've been doing investment banking for a few years now, but it's all about managing expectations and delivering work on time. As I said earlier, a lot of the work has been delivered through the week, and currently the work has been reviewed. When work is being reviewed and you're not required to be at your desk, if your team are aware and they know you're going to be responsive, it's fine to go to the gym, use that time as downtime, but just make sure you're available to make the changes. The most important thing to note is clients are at the heart of everything we do, and essentially investment banks provide services to clients. These clients could be a range of governments, large corporations, major businesses, whether it's in tech, media, healthcare, And if you can imagine, these guys are sometimes spending millions and even billions of pounds at a transaction. It's very important they get it right. So investment banking is very, very complex, but in this video, I'm going to be purely focusing on mergers and acquisitions. So this is where one company acquires another, and this is the division I work in. So this is where I have the most knowledge. Now, from my experience, you can have a large number of different types of clients. You can have corporations, which are public clients, or you can have private equity. Now, from my experience, both of them are demanding, but I would definitely say private equity is very, very demanding. I remember back at my previous firm, I worked on a deal, and honestly, I clocked in about 100 hours on that weekend, maybe even 110. And I was so busy because the client was often asking for different things at different times. So one day we'd be working on financials, another day we'll be cleaning out the numbers, and this often takes a lot of your time. So in addition to having a demanding client, working with clients from different time zones is definitely another thing which makes you work a lot of hours. So you could be in the UK and be working with a US client. Again, you have to attend to their hours, waking up early for calls or staying up late night. And it's just part and parcel, especially when you're in a deal process. You have to make sure that you're delivering a high value service, because we are essentially paid fees by the client, and every investment banker wants to perform well, not only to have a good reputation, but to make sure you have ongoing service and a good relationship. So in addition to a client, the third factor I'm going to mention is the type of deal you're working on. This can vary. You can have a deal with a large public client that can be very complex and technical. They can have a very, very unusual capital structure, or you can be working in several advisors. Now, from my experience when working on deals, you're not only just working with a client, but you're working with legal teams, you're working with accountants, and part of the investment banker's job is actually the day management of the team. Now, what do I mean by this? Often is the case is I'm chasing up accountants for numbers that I need to put in a financial model. I'm dealing with lawyers and sending out non-disclosure agreements, which they all need to approve. And I have to basically manage this process alongside working with the client on a daily basis to make sure everything gets through. Now, you can imagine this is very, very stressful. You're working with 3 sets of parties. It can get confusing, but this is part of the job. And sometimes you're up late at night, making sure you go through your emails or handling calls to make sure everything gets over the line. So speaking of hours, I would say the average range of hours worked in investment banking is between 60 and 80 hours a week, but this may vary greatly depending on the nature of work, the number of projects you work on. So as you know, in investment banking, you often work on multiple projects. The 2 types of projects you probably work on is pitching and deal execution. So in pitching, what you're doing essentially is presenting an idea to a business for a growth opportunity. So it could be a business based in Europe who want to go to Asia and expand, and you are saying, this is how your business is going to look if you now go to this premises. This is what you can do in order to grow. Now, in a deal mode, this is where your life is going to change drastically. And trust me, guys, I've been there. You're essentially going from a marathon to a sprint. A deal can range between 3 to 9 months, and it's basically the live period where the client is really trying to get a big deal over the line. This is where a lot of the analysis is done. This is where you're working with accountants, legal teams, and it's really, really important to meet a certain deadline. So you often work a lot more hours. So of that range that I mentioned, you could be on the latter end, around the 80-hour mark, and in some cases, unfortunately, you can work upwards of 100 hours. So the first point on the market is very, very important in investment banking to keep on top of things. This is part of having attention to detail. You have to consume what's going on in your industry, because A, you have to tell your end client what's going on, and B, even if it's competitors, your client needs to know what strategic move to make next. So if you're dealing with a public company, now this is a company that is listed on a stock exchange, it's really, really important to keep on top of things. So if there's a share price change, a lot of this is going to impact your analysis. So for example, your analysis might be saying, based on a certain share price, this is going to be the multiple or the valuation of the company looking to the future. Now, if the share price changes, this is going to impact your numbers. And so it's really, really important that you make sure these numbers tie up and make sense. Now, above some of the reasons I've mentioned earlier, there are actually internal factors which impact the length of hours you work in investment banking. The two main ones that come to mind are the level of proficiency in the team, and secondly, the culture. So by proficiency, essentially, I mean how good of a job do the team do when they're working on a project. Now, investment bankers are high performing people and they always should try to give their best. But as you can imagine, working several hours means that you're not sleeping a lot, and that's likely to affect your attention to detail. Now, this comes into play when you're working on a live deal, for example, because you might be working very, very late, but the client expects perfect work. Now, say if the analysts who are working on the deal don't have strong attention to detail, this is likely to lead to a lot of iterations of the work. This just means when it goes up to the senior level, there's going to be a lot of markups or improvements to be made. You can almost think when you write an essay and you submit it to your teacher for a draft. Well, in investment banking, we are essentially perfectionists, and the more drafts you get, the more work is required. And if you're getting them wrong, this definitely extends your period and means you're working late, making improvements, which essentially extend your working hour week. Now, the second reason to mention is culture. Now, culture really is a funny one. It's basically how hard your team works. And you're probably looking at me like, hey, so investment bankers work hard. How much harder can you work? Well, from my personal experience, you can have two types of culture. You can have teams who are basically a lot more chilled. Now, chilled still means you're working between those 60 and 80 hours. However, maybe your managing director is a big fan of sports. Maybe he likes to work very, very early and finish early. And this type of behavior is normally predicated throughout the team. So even though your analysts will be working quite hard, maybe you'll start at 9 and maybe leave 10, 11. Now, from my experience, I've been in a situation where I've been in a team which have a strong work culture, and that meant that I worked quite a lot. So when the office was leaving, most of the people were going home, most of my team was still there. And in investment banking, as you know, it's important to reflect the way your team is behaving. And what I mean by this is if people are still working hard, especially people who are more senior than you in the office, it's very difficult for you guys to leave the office. Well, thank you guys for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was very, very informative and you understand better why investment banks work so much hours. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see. Anyway, it's your boy Soul, aka the Bodybuilding Banker, and that's another video, and I'll catch you guys in the next clip.